We all know that pro bowlers can throw strikes, a lot of them, but how many strikes can a professional bowler throw in just 2 minutes? Well, that question can be answered thanks to the PBA Strike Derby, and the 2023 edition just took place on the 23rd of October. The format for this event is fairly straightforward. There are 8 players that are selected based on the most strikes thrown throughout the 2023 season. As Troup won this event last year, he was automatically the #1 seed. There were 4 matches in the quarterfinals. Each player has 2 minutes to throw as many strikes as they can across 2 lanes. There's also a golden headpin rack, which counts as 2 points. Whichever player gets the most strikes in 2 minutes wins and advances to the next match. So this is basically a little bit like the NBA 3-point contest. Match 1 saw defending champ Troup face Marshall Kent. Marshall went first and posted a respectable 11 strikes in 2 minutes. Carl had a bit of a slow start, but did get a strike on the golden pin rack, which certainly helped. He managed to get 11 strikes also, and then right at the last second he tried to get another shot in, but you can clearly see he did not release the ball in time. Carl was complaining at this as he felt he'd lost some time due to having to wait several times for a new rack. But the ruling was that the strike would not count, and this meant they went to a roll-off. They would throw 1 shot each, but to advance, 1 player had to strike. If they both struck, then another shot would be thrown. Both players started with a strike, and then on the second shot, Marshall went high leaving the 4-pin, and Carl threw a strike to advance to the next match. Matchup number 2 was Jason Belmonte versus Chris Vi. Bermejo was up first and was going at a very slow pace and seemed to be struggling. He only ended up with 7 strikes. Afterwards he mentioned he was struggling to hold on to the ball, as obviously there isn't enough time to wipe the oil off from the ball, and this is an interesting point as it's something that would affect the two-handed bowlers. Although Chris Vi didn't look too bad out there throwing some very nice shots, and he did enough to beat Bermonte's score with about 30 seconds left to spare, and ended up with a total of 11 strikes. Matchup number 3 saw Tacket take on Jesper Svensson, the lone lefty on the show. EJ was up first and it was a bit of a struggle for him to make the pocket, and when he did, he wasn't getting much carry. The one thing that saved him was speed. He was very quick and getting off far more shots than any player so far, as he managed to throw 24 shots in 2 minutes. He ended up with a total of 12 strikes. This was the highest score so far, and this was really down to how quickly he was able to throw shot after shot. Jesper took a bit of a slower approach, but it was effective as he had a very hot start. He was also throwing all reactive with not a urethane ball in sight. It looked like he was set to easily beat EJ's score, but things started to go wrong. He got to 11 and needed a strike on the very last shot, and managed to get a nice trip on the 6th and 7th pin to force a roll-off. Both players struck in the first shot of the roll-off, and then EJ struck again, forcing Jesper to match him to stay alive, but Jesper went light for an 8 count, meaning that EJ would advance. Now we move on to the 4th and final first round match, Anthony Simonson versus Matt Ogle. Simonson was the highest seed and chose to go first. Just like EJ, he was going fast and getting off a lot of shots, and managed to post a score of 13, the highest score so far. So Matt Ogle had his work cut out for him. But he rose to the challenge very well, getting off to a blistering start as the first 7 shots he did not miss, and he had 8 strikes with 70 seconds still to go. And the strikes kept coming, and Ogle wrapped up the win with over 30 seconds left on the clock and finished with a total of 15. So now we have our semi-finalists, and semi-final number 1 was Troup versus Chris Vi. Vi went first, and this was a really great round for him, and just like Ogle, he ended up with 15 strikes, and it could have easily been a little bit higher than that too. Troup had a lot to do, and it was a bad start with nearly every shot missing right, and he could only manage a total of 9, which meant Vi would advance to the final. Now the second semi-final, and Matt Ogle was first up after an impressive first round, and he stayed hot throwing strike after strike for another excellent score of 14. So EJ's got a decent target to beat. He got off to an absolutely incredible start throwing the first 7 strikes, including a golden headpin rack. He then had 2 9 counts but threw 2 more strikes to give himself an excellent chance of beating Ogle. He managed to tie the score with 21 seconds remaining, and now it seemed almost inevitable he would get 1 more strike with this much time left, and he managed it on the very next shot and ended up with a total of 16. And this was actually a new record that EJ had managed to set. Absolutely incredible score. And it set up a final against Chris Vi. Now, Vi went first as the lowest seed, and he was setting a good pace, getting off a lot of shots. He had 13 strikes with about 15 seconds left when there was a slight malfunction on the right lane as the sweep came down unexpectedly after Vi had thrown the ball. The clock was paused for a few moments, and once things continued, Vi threw 2 more strikes for a total of 15. We've seen what EJ can do during the previous round, so we know he's capable, but even so, this won't be easy. And it wasn't the start EJ needed, as it took him nearly 25 seconds to get his first strike on the board. He did get a strike on the golden headpin rack, but even so, he's in big trouble. Carry deserted him as well, and he wouldn't even break double figures and ended up with 7. So Vi was this year's champion. Although I'm sure there are some who may not like this kind of event, it is pretty good fun. All I would say is that instead of having this as a standalone event, I think it should be part of something like the NBA All-Star Weekend. I think it would make much more sense to have something like a bowling All-Star Weekend rather than just the Strike Derby as a standalone event. But now we have a bit of a break until the start of the new season, which kicks off in January 2024 with the PBA Players Championship. And that is going to bring us to an end of today's video. I hope you enjoyed watching this little recap of this weekend's Strike Derby. As we now have a bit of a break until next season, I'll be doing quite a few classic PBA telecasts, sort of recaps, having a look back at a lot of telecasts perhaps from the 80s and 90s, so keep an eye out for that to come. Thank you all for watching this video, and if you've yet to subscribe, I would really appreciate it if you could just click the subscribe button below. And as always, thank you, bowling fans, and see you all next time.